Hey gang, hey gang, hey gang. Hello everybody. Are you all there? Can you hear me? I'm looking at the comments right now. It is unbelievable how many people we have from all over the world. It's truly amazing. Um, our little sessions have become this global party, and we try to do it at this time of day, which is 11 o'clock on the west coast of the states, so that we can get as many people as possible. Oh, can you hear me, guys? Everybody hear me? Hello, hello. If you can hear me, let me know in the comments, gang. I just want to make sure that the microphone is working okay. Hello, hello, everyone. The comments are a little delayed for me here, so it takes. Yep, I'm hearing yes, 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 yes. Hear you just fine, beautiful, gang. Thank you all for joining me again on this Saturday. I hope that you're all well and healthy wherever you are in the world, and that you're managing this pandemic with grace. It's a crazy time. It's a truly crazy time. Oh, and there's Hitomi even from Japan. What time is it in Japan, Hitomi? It's got to be early. Wisconsin can hear me. Hey, Wisconsin. Good, gang. So what we'll do is, I think actually today will be relatively short and sweet. Before we start anything, if you're interested in in following along with the sheet music, I'll actually post a video of it, and you'll be able to see the sheet music on the screen here as we go through it. But also, if you want to download it, there's in the description there's a link to Sheet Music Direct, and you can download individual copies of it. You can buy them, and then you've got it right in front of you if you want to do that. So what I thought we'd do today, based on what we did last time in the last session, is let's start with the piece itself. Let's listen to it. We can watch the music go by, and then we'll break it down. We'll kind of work through it, and then we'll do it again at the end. And I'll take any questions that you might have. Again, I think today might be it's short and sweet. It's a pretty short and sweet piece. Let's start, shall we? So what I'll do is I'll play here on screen with me the piece. So this is home, and then I'll set the whole thing up. Let's just go through it, shall we? All right. Let's see. So if we're here and we start it here, let's see what happens. All right, all right, all right. Good. Let me stop this. Oh, the Alleluia is starting. Stop. Stop the Alleluia. No. Okay, great. So we're back. So, yeah, where to even begin with this? First, let's talk about where it sits in the entirety of the Sacred Veil. So, those of you who are just joining us, I see some of you are asking about the virtual choir and if this is part of that. This isn't part of the virtual choir. What I'm doing is just getting a bunch of us friends together from all over the world, including all of you who are joining us for the first time. And we're just going to explore this music. This is new music that I've written and just recently recorded right before the lockdown, and that I'm hoping to share with you. And I thought that maybe in this strange time of COVID, this is a way that we can share all this music together. Let's see, where to begin with this. So The Sacred Veil, for those of you who are just coming to this now, is a piece that I wrote with poet Charles Anthony Silvestri. And Tony, as I call him, my best friend in the world, we've known each other for 30 years, since college choir. He lost his wife, Julie, to ovarian cancer 13 years ago. And you can imagine the devastation in all of that. We decided 4.5 years ago that to write a piece about the event, and we didn't really know what we were going to write about. It began with this single poem, which is the first movement that is now called The Sacred Veil. And Tony had given me this poem, and I said it pretty quickly. And then we just jumped in. We said, how do we build this? What will it be? And I didn't know what this would be. So what I asked Tony to do is I asked him first to write the poetry of the moment that the moment of Julie's death. And that's a movement called You Rise, I Fall. That's movement 11. And actually we'll do an exploration of it just like this in a couple of weeks. I think it's on September 5th. After we'd done that, we kind of knew, okay, that's the touchstone. That's the core, the soul of this entire piece. Then I asked him to write this movement, which is now movement 11. And I said to Tony, I said, tell me about the moment that you knew you were first in love with Julie, with his wife. And he told me this story about how they were on their second date here in Los Angeles. She was a classicist, so she taught Greek and Latin at the same private school that Tony taught history. And he said that they were looking out over the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and that at some point he was looking at her, and he doesn't remember what she was talking about, but that he just heard in his mind these words, "You feel like home." Just that. And I remember when he told me that on the phone, I just can't think of a more pure expression than those words, "You feel like home." That's the whole thing. I think that's what we all wish for with that kind of love with somebody. And I told him on the phone, I remember, because he'd written me a whole bunch of other poetry that we were looking at. And I said, that's it. That's all the poetry that we need for this entire movement. Just that you feel like home. Now, where this comes in the piece, as I said, it's in movement 3. And so you're hearing different, if you've downloaded the sheet music, you'll see that the choir for those first couple of measures they're not doing anything. But in the recording, they're singing this long C. And the reason for that is because when we get into the full piece, and by the way, we'll do a breakdown of the whole piece. I think it's on August 28th. We'll listen to the entire Sacred Veil together. But for me, the middle C represents the veil, this ribbon of energy that Tony describes that is between the world of the living and those who have passed. And the piece is constantly going above the middle C, so up here to E flat major, or down below to A flat major, or A here, or up above. It's always these iterations of the number 3, and we'll talk about that in a minute later. But there's this veil, the piece, there's a gravity that keeps taking the piece over and over and over back to middle C. And the part that you don't have in your sheet music that's right before we sing is the sopranos and everybody sings. Tony's character says, "Come, hold my deepest secrets here among the foam," and then everybody, sopranos and altos, sing together, "You are the world to me, and you feel like home," and that's what sets it up. And when they sing "You feel like home," they sing "and you," which is "and you." And then the sopranos and altos, you feel home. And then the men come up and they merge with the sopranos and altos. So the entire choir is on that middle C on the veil. Because for me, this is the most sacred moment, this moment of pure, pure love. All right, so then we get to this bit in the piano before we even sing. Just delicate, gentle. And this musical material came about for me because right as we were in the middle of writing this, Tony said these words to me. He said that I also needed to draw from my own life in these places in terms of grief and love. And right around this time, I was falling head over heels with my wife, Laurence Servaz. And she loves to tango dance. And I knew that she was going to be out dancing in Belgium. I was here. And that she would be getting home very late. And I was up visiting my parents. My parents have this old 100-year-old felt piano. And so I wrote her, or kind of improvised, just this thing that I knew would just be this really tender, calm nighttime music for her to put on her headphones and walk home from tango to go home to go to bed, to just kind of come down. And it's interesting. Maybe I'll post that original audio file somewhere. You can actually hear my mom speaking, I think, to my dad in the background, just way in the background. It's just me at the piano with my iPhone. But it's got this beautiful atmosphere, which then, as I started to look at this poetry, "You Feel Like Home," was exactly how I felt. It's just, you just come home and that's it. Home becomes this huge theme for the entirety of the Sacred Veil. And those of you who were with us a couple of weeks ago when we did Child of Wonder, you'll remember that the last words of the entire Sacred Veil are stretched on endless waves, or stretched on ocean waves of endless foam. Welcome home, my child. Welcome home. And so even now we plant this idea of home, and then this journey through the end of Julie's life, and then finally really coming home to this place, this other place on the other side of the veil, full of love and release. So the way that I painted that then is we start here, and even the piano does this 3 times, right? Always these iterations of 3s. And then here even, that dotted quarter note to me has 3 eighth notes in it. There's the 3rd time. And then we get home, which is just this, right? And for me, that E flat chord, it just feels like home. And so the piece, as you heard this time, just is endlessly bringing you back home. It bubbles and moves and sways and dances very gently, but then always just comes back home. There's nothing more to it than that. It's as simple as can be. So why don't we just go through the piece now for anybody who's going to be singing along or kind of learning this. So you'll see sopranos and altos. I've split you into 3 parts. All of you who are really in it for the long run with me on the Sacred Veil will know that I'm going to endlessly be talking about the number of 3. It's the governing principle for the entire piece. So it's not just that things are repeated 3 times, like here, you feel like home. We get 3 of these verses, but that there's relationships of thirds up and down, rhythms of third, 3-bar phrases. So here, the sopranos and altos split into 3 parts, right? So we start just there, and we're just ghosting this little 3-note melody that the cello is playing. Altos here, and then this all together. And then you just hold while we do this, right? Then going to 17, basses and tenors come in, and Elizabeth Smith in the comments said, "The men are the ocean waves." That's exactly right. It couldn't be more true. And they've even got just the tiniest little crescendo, men, when you sing to... And this, of all things, is quoting another piece that I wrote called "As Is the Sea Marvelous," which is an E. E. Cummings poem, but from God's hands, which sent her forth to sleep upon the world. the poetry is so exquisite. And so it was intentionally quoting my ocean theme from that, as is the sea marvelous. And then sopranos and altos, you do the same thing again. We build that cluster out a little bit. And then we get this, tenors. Sorry, this is in 21. Then basses. And we have this chord finally. And I think here, I get asked a lot about these added ninths. So if we've got an E flat major chord for all you nerds out there, and then I just add the ninth to it. First, you should know that even though I got this beat into my head during my master's degree at Juilliard, I never think in terms of theory. I never once think, ooh, I'll add a ninth. To me, it's more about illuminating the moment emotionally. And there's something about this that, just even with the voices, and then you add the piano to it, but that ninth there, it shimmers in some way. I don't know how to describe it, but to me, it sounds like optimism. It sounds like, and even more specific, it sounds like West Coast optimism. There's a lot wrong with California, but there's some great things about California. And one of the things about California is that there's just this dream out here of possibility. And that ninth, no matter where I use it, always just sounds to me like optimism. And I love this idea that even in the most tender moment of love, that there's hope. There's kind of a bubbling optimism. Okay, then going on, altos and sopranos into 25. For the first time, we sing you, and then we're going to say it 3 times, right? And then feel, so. And then altos, lean in. Okay, so this is one of my favorite gestures with voices. So we get altos, you come up and, right? And then when you come home, it's completely resolved. You're in unison. And this now comes from 2 things. I wrote several years ago. I wrote a piece, a setting of the E.E. Cummings poem, "I Carry Your Heart with Me." And I don't know if any of you know this, but "I Carry Your Heart with Me" is one of the great poems of all time. It's so perfect and beautiful. And one of the lines here in it is, "And it's you are whatever a moon has always meant, and whatever a sun will always sing is you." And when I do that in the piece, we're in a different key, but is you, it does this. And so the sopranos and altos play this little game where they're leaning in, and they bend up to it. It's like that unification that you want in love, but just not quite getting it, that exquisite ache before that unification with another person. And so then what I do is I quote that here. By the way, at the end of "I Carry Your Heart," what happens is the altos and sopranos are playing this game the entire piece. They never resolve and find each other. And then the last chord of "I Carry Your Heart," altos are here, and then they finally, after the entire piece, they find unity with the sopranos. They're locked together. Here, we get this moment, and then locked together, right? Then what we get is tenors when you enter. And you play this game with the altos, this bend. And for me, I don't know how else to describe it, but the sound of that sounds like that liquid, languid afternoon love that you have. And you only get a window of time of that kind of love with a person where the world is just magical, that foods taste different and light is brighter and colors are tangible. There's this window of time when you have that love, and that's the kind of love that I was trying to paint here. So let's take just sopranos, shall we? Into pick up to 33. Ready? You for 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Feel like, just as simple as it can be, right? And that little motive, by the way, will become a big motive in the next movement and movements following on. Then altos, let's look at you for a second. So your pick up to 33. 1, 2, sing. So no gliss, but then you. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Feel. That's simple, right, altos? By the way, I think I say this in every session, but altos out there, I always try to give my favorite lines to the altos. I just love the whole alto thing. And so always buried in these places. I try to give everybody a beautiful, interesting, delicate line, but I really reserve the meat of the movements, usually for altos. In this case, tenors, you're doing this little dance with the altos in the exact same register. And I even talked about this in Child of Wonder, how there's this thing you can do if the altos and tenors are singing in the same register, even sometimes above and below each other. You can get the most exquisite color changes because the tenors in that range are bright and they've got a kind of a ping to them. And the altos are the exact opposite. It gets warmer and richer the darker it gets. So you can really play with those two sounds, almost like second violins and violas, the way those two different colors are. So tenors, let's take you, this is in measure 30-31. So you go 1, 2, you, 1, 2, go. And you gliss up, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then here's that ninth, right? And look at the way it's voiced. So you sing tenors, right? The sopranos are here. They come down here. The altos are here. So you actually come up and you make that ninth in between them. And when we listen back on the recording and when we sing it, you can hear the effect that voicing has, where the chord just lights up. It's got gold all around it because the tenor's up in that beautiful shiny part of the register. To my ears, they activate this whole series of overtones from the altos and the sopranos that kind of it just kind of creates this cloud. And the idea is that then in that lift, as that chord is going up like this is the first time that we introduce the basses, right? So basses come in and they split so that we get that, so that we really feel that grind, basses and baritones. And then this is 41, 42, then just that simple basis. That's all it is. And I've also said this now in several of these sessions, but those of you who are joining us for the first time, especially composers, they tell you in every beginning composition class, never write parallel fifths. That's the silliest thing I've ever heard. They should say, never write parallel fifths if you want your music to sound like it was written before 1750. And if they want to be even more specific, if it was written from the beginning of the Renaissance to 1750, and let's throw out these few times that Bach and a whole bunch of other composers did it. It's an incredibly specific kind of thing that they're asking. But for me, you've got in 45, right? So look at the tenors. So that's bass, baritone, tenor, feel like home, and you get. It's so rich and full. By the way, this is the ultimate voicing, I think, if you're choral composers out there. You get a fifth on the bottom, and then the third in the middle. everything above that then, like even if you just have the sopranos all on this E flat, it it lifts. You feel this opening of the whole chord. Anyway, so tell your theory teachers that there are all kinds of times when it's great to use a perfect fifth. Like for instance, any rock song written in the past 75 years. You could start there. Or Vivaldi. Tell them, anyway, la la la. So, going back then, sopranos, let's just look at you for a second because this is really nice. So the pickup then into 41, now you split and you play the little dance that the sopranos and altos had before. So first you sing the pickup into 41. 1, 2, go. Then seconds, you just take it and you grind against the first sopranos up there. And then now together, fee. That's it. Altos, your part is don't think for a moment that just because you've got the same note over and over. If we were all working together, I would tell you that one of the things that I'll do sometimes with altos is have them sing the same note over and over, and even the same word. But the idea is that there's an evolution not only of the sound, but of the idea. So you're saying the word you 3 times, even though it's just on that B flat, but each time it's different. So there's the first time, you, and then the second time, you, and then the third time, you. Feel like home. Even though it's on the same note, there's a whole arc and evolution to those notes there that bring the whole thing to life. Ultimately, altos, as that E flat, you're the anchor in all of this. You're the motor that drives this whole thing forward. So incredibly simple, really, the whole piece, and I think deservedly so, because again, the poetry is so perfect. It's all one ever needs to say. And one of the things that I often try to do when I'm presented with poetry that is this good, that is this rich, where you can just simply say it out loud and already it does its job, is musically, I just try to get out of the way. I just try to do only what the poem needs to illuminate it and maybe put it on a pedestal or elevate it, but not to get clever at all with any of it, not to overwrite or try to be dazzling or languish in the sounds of the words. Just say what it is, and the poetry will do all of the heavy lifting. Yeah, so let's go back and we're going to read this one more time, and then we'll I'll take some questions. Okay, so if you have any questions, be thinking about them, and you can put them up in the comments. Let me see. So if I do this and I go share screen and a Chrome tab. Oh, and I'll do this. This. I'm using a new streaming service here, so this is new for me. Let's see. We're going to do this, and I think. Let's see. Okay, that, and then if I do this, sorry, gang. If I do this and put it in full screen, but it won't really go full screen. If I do this, and then we're here. Yeah, woo! Technology. Okay, ready, gang? So here we go. So you hear the choir singing that C that's not in this sheet music, but it's in the full score. Okay, ready? So sopranos and altos, when you come in here, just as pure as you can be. Try to match the cello perfectly. See how you're just ghosting the notes the cello plays? There's no, I know what's happening. You're all saying you can't hear the music. We're going to try this again. Hey, baby, Laurence just walked in. Let's try this one more time, shall we? So we're going to do this. Stop screen. We're going to share the screen. Isn't this fun? Isn't this fun, everybody? Don't you love technology? Isn't this so much better than meeting together in person and making music in a room? The answer to that is niet. Okay, so.
This is my camera. I'm Dane.
Laurence Savaz, everyone. My beautiful wife, the one I've been talking about. How'd it go, baby? How'd it go?
Really great.
Yeah.
I'll wash my hands.
Do it.
Safety first.
Do it, baby. Okay, so then I'm going to go like this. Then I'll do share the screen. And I'll say this Chrome tab, but then I'll say share audio. Oh, I think that's the key. Let's try this. So if I do this, here we go. Now you should be able to hear it. Let's see if you can hear it now, gang. There we go. Okay, so here we go, sopranos and altos. Just want to make the purest hum that ghosts what the cello is playing. And just a pure sound here, sopranos and altos. Hear that shimmer? And that ninth, you hear how it sounds like optimism? Now, basses and tenors, like ocean waves. Just a little push and pull. You hear that? Same thing, basses and tenors. Push. Now listen as this chord comes up. Listen for that ninth that we talked about. Now we sing. Right, so that's the first U. Now the second one with even more mystery. This sentence with all the love in the world. And altos. Oh yeah, that exquisite pain. Now tenors, you ready? You lead us to the next bit. Nice breath. Then altos, echo that. Altos match that. Now listen for the tenor's ninth when we fill out this chord. Then basses. You bring us home. That's all it is. It's just that simple. I also think, or I'd like to think, that's all love is. It's just that simple. It's that pure. Gang, while we're listening to the last little piano parts here, if you have any questions for me, why don't you post them in the comments? I already see Rebecca saying, can you play it again? Some of us lost audio here. I'm so sorry, Rebecca, but actually you can find this on not only YouTube, but on Spotify and Apple. You can stream it. You can find it all over the web now. You can listen to the whole thing. That's it. That's it. It's that simple. Yeah, good. I'm sorry that the sound went out, Rebecca. There. Somebody wrote, any particular reason why you chose to omit that final chord in the recording? Yeah, I'll tell you. It's a super good question. It's because Gregory, that in the standalone that you have, right? We end. It resolves and everything is good. But in the context of the whole movement of the Sacred Veil, it goes right into movement number 4, which may be my favorite movement. It's called magnetic poetry. And so what you get is you get, and then the piano comes in. So instead of resolving, it takes off with this kind of motor, and that we just didn't have a recording of finishing the piece the way that we did it. So that's how it ends now, kind of unresolved. Yeah, Debbie is saying it would be great if you could give a pulse as tempo. So slow. I totally understand, Debbie. Yeah, for me too, frankly. I get lost in the recording trying to listen where I was when I conducted it. This isn't an ideal way at all. Maybe what we can try next time is I'll actually play it on the piano and you can sing along to my playing. But even then, it's so slow that it's 1, 2, 3. It's just not, it's not the perfect musical version. Can this be orchestrated for band and choir? I'll tell you, Zach, I've been trying to figure out if it can be. I know that I want to eventually make a version of Sacred Veil for string orchestra and choir. Right now it's just cello, piano, and choir, just slightly bigger. I don't know if it could be band. I think the challenge with band is just that forgive me, but bands don't do gentle so well. You know what I mean? They can do beautiful and warm, but gentle, I don't know. And this is so tender. I really, really have to think about what instruments I could use, but maybe it could. I promise I'll think about it. I really promise I'll think about it. Somebody asked, do you have synesthesia? The way you talk about your music make it sounds like you do. Oh, that's Lygia. Am I saying your name right, Lygia? I hope I am. Or Lygia. I don't have synesthesia. Like somebody who has classic synesthesia can see the colors, literally see colors when they hear. So if they play E flat, they might see green, and it's very clear to them that note is green, and it's like the senses, hearing and seeing, are crossed. So I don't have that necessarily, but I will say that I have dramatic visual responses to any music that I hear. Maybe it's because I grew up with movies, or just maybe it's how my brain is wired. The funny thing is, and I don't talk about it a lot because I think I always sound like a freak when I'm in rehearsals, but I have a massive connection to taste and sound, that I can hear certain notes or certain chords and taste them on my tongue. Some of them taste like iron, some taste like fruit or sweetness or honey, or actually there's a wiring that seems to be crossed in there. So maybe that's a kind of synesthesia. I don't know. Charles says, I feel waves through my head with beautiful music like this. I know exactly how you feel, Charles. It's the best feeling, isn't it? Yes, somehow music is just it's magic. We're so lucky to have it in our lives. I always think it's the ultimate gift. So Michael Bryant asked, what's the reason for the 4/4 and then 3/2 bars? Okay, so there's two parts to it. One is conceptual. So I don't know if you heard me, Michael, going on and on about the number 3 and how often the number three is used in the piece over and over and over again in terms of length of phrases and relationship between notes, and even Julie's main theme, which when we get into the full breakdown, I'll show you. The first notes that we hear, that's Julie's theme, incredibly simple. But it's three notes. It starts on the veil note, which is C. It goes up a third, and down a third. And even in the beginning of the piece, so with the piano, it gets repeated three times. So it's just this endless iteration of three. And so what I love is this idea of 4/4 at the beginning, and then 3/2. There's our three, that it's kind of sacred. Originally, I just written in 4/4, when I was improvising. But then I also love the formality of it by making that second part of it three. It just forces you to wait longer, right? If you think 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 1. It breaks it up a little bit. Also, I find that that's how breathing works, right? So like if you're breathing in and out, it's not completely even. It's really like you breathe in, you breathe out, and then you wait. Then you breathe in, you breathe out, and you wait. And so I think it also, I didn't do that intentionally, but I think it helps the audience enter that space of almost a meditation. It's David Skinner at Sydney Sussex College at Cambridge, when I was out there working with him, would always say that there's certain kinds of music that induce a state of twilight, especially in the Renaissance. And I feel like music like that, that's structured like that, induces a state of twilight, which is exactly what I'm hoping for. Somebody says, Mart says, your interconnection to sensations comes through in the music. That means a lot to me. That truly means a lot to me. I know, just from my own personal aesthetic, this is really with no judgment to what anybody else does, just for myself. I can't make music that is just music. And what I mean by just music, I don't mean just music, but music that is about the relationship of the notes to each other. It's not how I think. For me, always music is a vehicle to a communal experience that the performers, the audience, and the composer, if I'm lucky enough, all enter the same space, all find this commonality of this elevated sense of emotion and humanity. And so to hear that the sensations that I'm trying to write into the piece are actually coming through in the music, it's a huge compliment, Mart. I really appreciate that. Yeah, Luxarumque is the same way, Alex Turner says. In fact, Luxarumque, if any of you know this piece, it's similar in these chords that rock back and forth to each other. Literally, when I wrote Luxarumque, my goal was to try to write a piece of music that would teach the audience how to breathe, very specifically, so that the first bit is, so breathing in and exhaling, 2, 3. This kind of thing. Rebecca is asking, have I done broadcasting? Your voice is amazing. Well, thanks, Rebecca. No, but I didn't sleep much last night, so that might be part of it. Thank you so much. Do I hold classes or teach? I'll tell you what's interesting about I don't hold classes, at least not yet. But doing these things have made me start thinking maybe there's some sort of, I don't know, online master classes or something that I could do. I'm not sure what I'd want to teach. We could teach the nuts and bolts of composition, or at least the way I see them, my nuts and bolts of composition. Could talk about poetry, talk about humanity. So somebody asks, Gregory asks, are the glist notes imitating the tugging of heartstrings? So Gregory, I mentioned this earlier, but this is super important. I really want to communicate this one. So my wife, Laurence, put this back here behind because she knew that I would be doing this piece today. I promise this is not a pitch. I'm not selling anything, but this is vinyl actually, with Hurt, my arrangement of Trent Reznor's Hurt on one side, and I Carry Your Heart on the other. And in I Carry Your Heart, the idea, so the first two chords, the choir sings on I Carry Your Heart, in they sing. I carry on. This is what they do. So from the very beginning, my little golden brick idea was that the sopranos would stay right here on the G, and the altos, I carry your heart with me. That they're always trying to come together with the sopranos. They're trying to unify these two loves, trying to find each other. And it's not until the entire end of the piece they dance and dance and dance, and then finally they come to unison. So the glide into it is more like, well, if we were live, I would use this analogy that if you've ever had a bruise like on your arm, and then if you push it and it hurts and feels good at the same time, do you know what I'm talking about? You know, where it's like, oh, just that exquisite pain. And emotionally, for me, there's no more exquisite pain than that pain of first love, where you feel like you're dying and you want to die in that love. That's that. And so this is this very simple way of trying to, that lean into it is it's trying to be the core of love, if you will. Somebody says you're already teaching at this moment, and you're creating interest to hear more. Well, thank you for saying that. And then Rich says the rhythm of the song is like breathing, ocean waves, twilight, and afterglow. I hope so. I really hope so. It's how I feel. It's also one of these things. By the way, Gregory Yao, thank you. Or if it's Yo or Yao, but either way, thank you, Gregory. Yeah, that you got it. Yeah, and wow, a lot of you are really asking for master classes. This is great. Okay, maybe I would do this. I'll have to figure out what that even looks like and how we do that. But it could be fun. Catherine Panic says Eric's secretly an alto. That is so true. I think it's also because, if I'm being completely honest, I'm not a very good singer. I mean, obviously you can tell with the way I'm singing, but I have the soul of a singer. I so desperately want to be a singer. I mean, I think it's why I love writing for voices and being around voices. Even my wife is a soprano, because I want to sing, but I can't. And then because of that, I can sing okay. I can hold pitch, but you can hear my voice is low, so the bass notes are really low. So I'm useful in a choir, but I don't think I'm very good. But where I used to be really great is my falsetto. The older I get, I'm just losing a note every year. So I used to have all these alto notes up here, but I don't have them anymore. But so I would do this all the time when I was in choir, where if we were singing mixed or we were singing together, I'd be singing with the basses, and then just quietly I'd jump up and sing the alto part, because it's always so much fun, and it's the range that I can hear the best, and it really pings and shimmers in my head. So actually, I think you might be onto something. I think I actually secretly want to be an alto. It's not a secret anymore. Charles, again, you really convey emotion perfectly through your music. Thank you, Charles. That really means so much to me. It's absolutely my goal. It's a funny thing, because the piece is called Sacred Veil, and I've been doing a lot of press now leading up to the release of the album, which is on August 28th. And a lot of the questions they're asking me, so the title, The Sacred Veil, does this mean this is religious music? Is it sacred music? And I keep laughing, because I remember when I was in college, just learning music history. And the first time I learned the difference between sacred music and secular music, right? And ultimately the difference basically is sacred music is used in liturgy, so in religious services, and secular music is kind of everything else. That's basically the difference. But I remember being very confused, because even then, even at 18, when I was just learning about classical music, all music is sacred to me. And I mean all of it. We're talking everything from Bach to Billie Eilish. Like, there's a world that music takes you to that is somewhere else. And then with my own personal aesthetic, what I want to do then is I want to find find the deep recesses of humanity in people. Leslie's saying, I like how you explore one piece of music. I'm not a music major, learning everything from choir. I really, really like that. That's also how I learned, Leslie, is at first it was only choir. I only started taking formal composition lessons years later. And so much of my musical education came through choir. It's, by the way, one of the reasons, if there's any teachers out there with us today, why I'm so on your side and I'm always advocating for music education, because when you study classical music, or this kind of ensemble music, you don't just learn about singing in a choir. You just don't learn notes. You also learn languages and you learn history. So much of my sense of Western European history is because I can relate it to music written at the time. You know, I have a decent sense of what was happening in 1750 because that's the year Bach died. And I know all these things through the exploration of music around the history. I also know writers who were writing at the time, or painters who were painting at the time, or governments that were collapsing or being born around the time, because of my study in choir of Bach. I think it's such an essential. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox. I'm literally preaching to the choir right now. Sorry, everybody. Matt says, I wasn't raised religiously, and yet your music got me into thinking about sacredness and life's meaning, got me into looking at religious lenses. That's a beautiful thing to say, Matt. I think that too. I often get asked, am I a Christian? And no, I'm not a Christian, because I think that to be Christian, there are certain tenets you must believe. You really must believe certain things to be Christian. And I don't believe those things. However, then the other option everyone asks is, oh, so you're an atheist. And ultimately, I think I'm a scientist, and I just don't think there's enough evidence to say there's absolutely no God. Actually, God is just such a huge concept. That's a 3 martini conversation right there, right? Is let's talk about what is God. But more importantly, I believe in belief. I see people that believe deeply, and that's in some ways the most human thing one can do. And so I think I try to honor that, the sense of sacredness in the music. And then there's Godzilla Eats Las Vegas, which people got to laugh sometimes too. Let's do one more question, and then we'll end this today. It's been really nice, guys. Let's see. Oh, Maria says, I'd love for you to compose one of Billie Eilish's songs. I'll tell you, I would love to do that. Billie Eilish, by the way, apparently she and her brother, who's also a genius, they're both choir nerds, apparently. They were in high school choir together. In fact, I think that's how they kind of got their start into music. So there is some weird overlap in the Venn diagram. I think what she's doing is really interesting and genuinely new. And when I say her, I mean she and her brother, because he knows. When are you coming to Holland again? Let's do that as the last question, and then we'll. So Trudy, I was supposed to come to Holland to perform this entire piece, The Sacred Veil, at the end of March. In fact, I was going to do it with the Grote Omroepkoor in the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam. I think it was March 27th or 28th. I was going to work with the choir for a week. Maybe you're in the choir, Trudy. Sorry. And that was the first concert that got canceled once the lockdown became apparent. And that was really hard for me. I love that group. I love that city and the country and the people. And also now, ik spreek een beetje Vlaams nu. This is so, I could speak some Flemish, which I think the Dutch might understand me somewhat. I can definitely talk about love and breakfast now. And so I was really looking forward to using some of my Flemish and my Dutch while I was there. I will come back the moment I can. And in fact, I just can't wait to travel. I don't know if you're all like this, but I'm aching to make music together. This is beautiful to spend the time with you, everybody. And I'm grateful for it. I can't wait to see all of you in a room together. And let's just take a single breath together and sing some music. Eventually, eventually. Gang, why don't we end it there? It's been a beautiful hour, and thank you for joining me. And be well. Be well. Wear your masks. Be careful, okay? And last thing I'll say is be good to each other. This is really intense time for a lot of people. Just be gentle with people. I think people need that right now. Take care, my friends. I'll see you next time.